Now, before we start this podcast, we had the unfortunate news this week of the death of two sons, two brothers, a husband, and that is Diego Jota and his brother Andre Silva. So in honor of both of them, Simon and I hope you join in as well watching this, are going to do a 20-second moment of silence in honor of Diego Jota's number that he wore for Liverpool. Thank you very much. And with that being said, welcome in to the CouchSide Network hosted. It's the CouchSide Network. Whoa, that intro is bad. Welcome back to the CouchSide Sports Report hosted by the CouchSide Network. Myself, Dylan, here with Simon. And we are here to talk more sport, more shit, and say more irrelevant opinion. Irrelevant.
It was you last week, it's me this week.
Yeah, oh man. Irrelevant opinions
What?
on sport.
Sorry,
That's
it was
more
me
like
last week. It's
Oh,
you
no,
this
this
week. we're already both.
We are already both. But we're here now. We're talking sports. Simon, how's it going, mate?
It's not going too bad, you know. It's a bit cold. It's
Oh,
very-
yeah,
it's
very cold.
It's been very cold the last 2 days. Won't lie. Struggled to get out of bed this morning. Struggled to get out of bed yesterday morning. But no, yeah, here to talk about the past week. Obviously coming in a day late, but
Yeah, man.
it means we have an extra day of stuff to cover.
This is a good point.
That's a very good point indeed. But yeah, feeling good. Feeling energized to talk about this. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of sport,
True.
a lot of moments, and a lot of opinions that no one asked for, which
Yes.
is why we're here.
But you're going to get it.
Yeah,
You're going to get
you're going to get it regardless.
Yeah.
So,
First of all,
Yes.
I've got a couple of things.
oh no.
First of all, I've got to explain something. Now, if you've watched this for long enough, you know this. I am hardcore to the death Steelers fan. Hardcore to the death Steelers fan, and still am. So you may be wondering why I am wearing a Philadelphia Eagles shirt. Now, first of all, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are in opposite NFL conferences. So let's get that out of the way. They are in the same state. They are in the state of Pennsylvania, but they are in separate conferences, one. And two, the reason I got this shirt is because it looks good. My girlfriend thought it looked good, and you just got to do what you got to do. So,
You know you have to tell her no sometimes.
no, yeah, that's a good point. But not with this shirt. The shirt actually does look pretty good, and I do
It's-
like the green. I can't
It's a nice
lie.
color. It's a nice
Yeah.
color. And like I'm not a Steelers fan either, or I don't support a team who hates the Eagles. So you know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing you're wearing it. I just know other people might.
But there is one thing that us Steelers fans and Eagles fans can all agree on: stuff the Cowboys.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, I can say I don't support either team, but I don't like the Cowboys either. It brings me great joy when their season is over. Like with Stephen A. Smith, when he posts those videos.
what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yep. And whenever they get knocked out, he's just laughing in the camera for
Oh,
about
it's so
half a
good,
minute.
man. It's so good.
It's good. I love it.
Oh,
NFL
man.
can't come soon enough. You know, we're only a few months away now.
This is a very good point. I think it is, because I saw it on the Steelers Instagram, 9 Sundays away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're 9 Sundays away from some American football, but that is not something we're talking about today. We will be talking about rugby, of course, with the Saturday blackout
Yes.
that happened this past Saturday. We'll be talking football, we're talking NRL, we're talking NRLW.
Yes.
Of course, the women's Wars are back. We'll be talking netball. And we'll just be talking a whole lot of shit, like I said
Yeah.
at the start. So, Simon, shall we kick it off
I think we shall.
with the rugby?
International rugby is back for New Zealand.
Let's go.
It's been back for a couple of teams already, but the All Blacks kicked off their 2025 season in Dunedin
That they
against the French. There were other games on this day. The Māori All Blacks hosted Scotland in Whangarei, and you also had the U20 All Blacks taking on the U20 Georgian side in Italy earlier on Saturday morning, and then also the Black Ferns taking on a Black Ferns 15, somewhat of a trial match,
Yeah.
a match to allow the coaches to finalise who they actually want to pick for the World Cup, which is in August. So
I was about to say, it is very close.
It is very close. We'll be talking about that when it's here. Because I think I looked up most of the match times an hour, like 4 in the morning. So
it's in England, eh?
It's in England.
Yeah, of course it's in the morning.
Well, it has to be. It's in England.
Yeah,
but we'll
it's a good
start
point.
off with the All Blacks, who took on the French, and they did surprise us with their team naming, which obviously we weren't able to react to on this podcast. But it was a bit different to what we thought. Rumours after our podcast started coming up for Tupavai was going to be moved to blindside flanker. It's been rumoured about for a while. It did happen, and one rumour that I fell for, which turned out to be true, was Rieko Ioane moving on to the wing.
Yes.
Which, if I can recall, you didn't think they were going to do that.
No, I thought he was going to go to number 23
No.
or on the bench, but no, he started at the wing.
He
Fair play.
started on the wing, but I believe played most of the game on the wing. And apart from that, we saw Fabian Holland given a starting debut over Patrick Tuipulotu. We saw Finau and Kirifi on the bench. Ollie Norris was also on the bench for a debut. Christian Leowilli starting at number 8 for a debut as well. And yeah, like we said, we had Caleb Clark on the wing, not Mark Talea. I wish it was Mark Talea. Sevu Reece on the other wing.
Yeah.
You know, we had that Proctor-Barrett partnership we all expected. Bowden started ahead of DMAC, who was on the bench to start the game. Because I feel like we have to stress one important thing which happened a minute into this encounter. Was that Sevu Reece concussed himself very early on. He didn't return to the field, so Damian McKenzie played the majority of the game at fullback and Will Jordan on the right wing. And after the full 80 minutes, the All Blacks managed to squeeze out a 31-27 win.
They did.
Over a French side with 8 debutants and fairly inexperienced compared to what they'd usually roll out. But the French, they definitely came to play.
I was about to say, I have to give a shout out to that French team. They came to play.
They came to play. I think they were a bit pissed off with some of the New Zealand media, basically trying to label them as, you know, a disgrace because, you know, but all the players, they just want to play rugby. They just want to, you know, get on the field. And
they showed it too.
And they definitely showed it. I think we were up 10-0 to start the game. We fought back. My initial thoughts is that the signs are there that this team, our team, can be very good. It's just, it's also first test of the season. We're bleeding a lot more players into the squad, I think, that we usually would be. But standouts from the All Blacks for me, Ardie Savea was playing just like he was at Moana. You know, it was brilliant to see at open side instead of number 8. Loved seeing him getting involved and being a big part of that team for us. Evan Will Jordan moving on to the right wing and just being just as lethal, just as good. He was on it. He was, you know, in the right place at the right time. And then also, Bowden Barrett didn't play bad. He played well. And Damian McKenzie off the bench at fullback, probably one of his best performances in a black jersey. And it's because you told me they're actually playing him as a fullback.
What have I been saying on this podcast to people outside of this podcast? I was saying to a co-worker that today, I was like, funny that Damian McKenzie played well at his proper position of fullback.
And it's
saying this.
We saw that Bowden and McKenzie can play well as the starting players on the team if Bowden's at 10 and McKenzie's at 15. So it's good to see that. A couple of players probably a little bit quiet compared to what people thought were going to happen. I think at the outside centre, Billy Proctor and then Rieko Ioane on the wing didn't do too much. They weren't bad by any means. They just didn't do as much as people were hoping. Tupavai did not put a foot wrong at blindside flanker. So that is very good to see. But I really liked it when we were passing the ball. Like, we were progressing the ball quite nicely. We were just lacking what to do at the end, the finishing moves.
I think there's two sides to that as well. So yes, our passing was great.
Yes.
But I also think that, and I think this is somewhat a pattern since 2019. So of course, rugby in terms of this is a very simple sport. What you want to do to get a gap most of the time is you're going to hit it up the middle just enough so that you suck the other team in and you get it out wide so your wingers have a gap. That's pretty much how it is. I think the All Blacks aren't earning that right enough.
No.
And I think that even though the passing is great, I would like to see us earn a little bit more. And like we have hard carriers, man. Ardie Savea's leg drive is the best leg drive I've ever seen in rugby.
And he's got the best dummy in the game as well.
Oh, big facts. Almost as good as Brody Retallick.
Yes.
You know, Christian Leowilli at 8. at 8 on Saturday, I thought actually did a very good job of hitting it up and playing his role in that way. And Billy Proctor, although was quiet compared to what people thought, did the same thing as well. So yeah, I think we just need to continue to earn that, get over, I guess you call it the gain line.
Yeah.
And then that's when we hit it out and use our back. So I'd like to see a little bit more balance there. Funnily enough, for the Blues this year, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
The Blues hit it up too much and didn't get to the back. So I feel like the All Blacks in that game got it too much, tried too much to get it out wide when we hadn't earned the right to do it yet.
Yeah.
And that's also a credit to the defense of this French side.
Yeah.
They played, like I said, they played very well.
Their defense was on, their counter-attacking killed us at times as well.
Yeah.
Which I want to say. Unfortunately, I can't name specific players, but I think both of their wingers were very good.
Yeah.
Especially their left winger, their fullback was also very good.
I was about to say, so the left winger, I do remember his name. I think it was Villiers.
Villiers. Yeah.
Villiers was very good. Fullback, I don't want any disrespect to this guy because he played great, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But he was fantastic. They came to play. It was almost like, and I hate to put it this way, but it was almost like they stepped up as we almost stepped down a little bit. I hate putting it that way because I do. And look, yes, we had 3 tries disallowed.
Yeah.
The Pasaleo Tosi obstruction. Look, that's going to be a controversial one for people here in New Zealand. It already has been. Honest, I hate saying it, to the letter of the law. Yeah, that is obstruction, but it's not like it would have really affected anything in real time, but to the letter of the law, which the referee has to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was same, and I guess it was the same with Billy Proctor's try that got disallowed. So that is tough, and we'll have to get better at that, especially at the end of second halves.
Yeah.
Where once again we failed. I think we failed to score anything. Oh, no, we got a penalty.
Yeah.
We kicked a penalty, which Beauden Barrett on the Saturday kicked very well.
100% from the tee.
Unfortunately, Beauden Barrett has this pattern to do this in one game and then in the next game miss quite a bit.
I can't remember how good at a time where his kicking was as consistent as it had been this year.
Yeah,
so
this is true.
I'm hoping it stays consistent. And
we'll
also,
need it to.
We didn't mention him earlier, but Fabian Holland's starting debut, very good. I felt like he was just getting involved everywhere, which was... He's a lock, and he's a massive lock in that regard.
He's huge.
I swear he was playing dummy half more often than other backs filling in for, because Rory Gard likes to go on rumps, and also Cortez Ranima off the bench I think was really good.
Yeah,
because I was like, why the hell are we taking Rory Gard off? We still have quite a while to go, and Ranima played well. I was like, okay, no, this is fine. Yeah, I'm happy with this.
I do think we have depth there.
We do,
and we got Hotham under that as well. So
and you also have guys like Christie and Fakatava still playing in New Zealand, and you have Xavier Rowe at the Chiefs as well.
Very true.
You have both Drummond and Preston at the Crusaders.
True.
You have other players at other teams as well. There's a lot of depth at that.
Got some guys there, man.
We've got some guys there. Unfortunately, Scott Barrett did go off injured in that game, and it has been confirmed that he's out for the rest of the series with the injury.
It is a calf tear. Thank the Lord it is not an Achilles tear. That is the worst. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next selection of the game goes, because I think Fabian Holland earned another shot to start again. So do you go with, you put Patrick Tuipulotu in the starting lineup and then not have a lock on the bench and start Vai again at 6, which I think is more likely to happen.
I think that's the best choice as well, because we didn't have a lock on the bench in the last game.
No, we did not. And also, I do. Look, I know I give this guy quite a bit of grief on here. He is an All Black, but I think Vai's a better 6 than Samipeni Finau is. Even though Finau is naturally a 6.
My eye test is the brilliant rugby mind that I am, is that if you're playing a blindside flanker, if you don't get carded, good enough for me. Tupou Vai didn't get carded. Good enough for me.
Let's take it.
That's what I'll say.
And that's the thing. He's not going to. That's how excellent of a player he is.
He's very disciplined, and you need a disciplined player at blindside. And we've somewhat struggled in the past to find a disciplined player. Although Satiti last year was great.
Yes.
And when he's fit, it does raise the question: what happens? Do you chuck him at 8? Because I think Leo Willie's been good, but I feel like Satiti probably overtakes him into 8, and I feel like to have that big presence of Vai, you can't really replace him with anyone else
Yeah.
for his presence, apart if you do decide to stick to Fino. But yeah, that's what I think what you said with Vai remaining at 6 and Tuipulotu starting alongside Holland.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
There has been no comment on if a injury call-up will be done by the All Blacks, but last week was spotted that Naitoa Koi of the Chiefs was training with the All Blacks. I think just as an extra man, I think he makes sense as the next lock off the block.
Yep.
There have been other guys who've played for the All Blacks who also aren't in the squad, but he's played more regularly than Josh Lord, his teammate this season.
Yep.
With Vai as well, and he's been playing regularly for the Chiefs for a very long time. He's probably just above both Blues boys, as much as I love him, like Josh Bear and Lachlan McWonnell. He's probably above Walker Ledewede.
Yep.
Walker Ledewede of the Hurricanes. He's probably ahead of Shalfu at the Crusaders, and anyone at the Highlanders, apart from Fabian Holland. So if he gets called up, I think that's great. I think they might. I reckon they won't decide until the third test.
Yeah.
Leading into that, if they need an extra lock.
Yeah.
Because I think because they haven't announced him, Vai is definitely playing at 6 in the next game, and they're going to continue to have Fino and Kirifi off the bench.
Yeah.
Which Duplessis Kirifi off the bench was
Played pretty good.
Played pretty good. I'd like to see more of him in the
Yeah.
All Blacks. If we can have 2 Lucies on the bench, then absolutely have Kirifi as one of them, because you need another more versatile Lucy next to him on the bench.
And also, I will say this: with if you continue to have Vai at 6, which Vai's a big 6,
He is huge 6.
he's a huge 6. You've got Adi Savia. You could see a Kirifi start at 7 in this next game, and you move Savia to 8 just to try it.
And then,
but
but
who
then
knows?
you have Wallace Atiti off the bench, which just seems like unnecessary.
Yeah,
you know, he's World Breakthrough Player of the Year. He filled that gap of blindside for us last year, almost like just out of the blue.
Yeah.
You got to fit in room for him, but also we're forgetting about all the other
World Rugby Breakthrough.
World Rugby
Player
Breakthrough.
I'm sure he'll be a world. I think he has the potential to be a World Rugby Player of the Year. He's just got to continue to prove it. And I think a little bit of work on the defensive side.
Oh yeah,
for Satiti, but he's young.
Still very young. Still got room to grow. But when we're talking about these loose forward options, and all of a sudden Vai is a blindside flanker, then what happens to all other Lucies who weren't even a part of this last test? The injured Luke Jacobson, Dalton, Blackadder, Peter Lakai, who wasn't named because of injury, and anyone else who just hadn't reached that step yet. And there are a lot of players like Simon Parker, who I think Razor said on the podcast he had been monitoring. You have other guys on other teams like, Christie and Grace on the Crusaders. You could even throw out a Braden Yosse of the Hurricanes. You could maybe even throw out, anyone, any loose forward.
Once again, it's a case, and I think it'll be like this until the World Cup, where the All Blacks either are really deep at one position, but a guy's got to prove he's that guy at the international level, or we don't really have any depth at all, but we have a guy there that's proven himself at the international level. So, it carries on that pattern.
The only slight concern I have with Vai playing as a number 6 is that our depth at lock all of a sudden might appear to be a bit shaky. Not that it is a bit shaky, but it appears to be, because obviously Patrick Tuipulotu's a bit older. I think he could still end up at the next World Cup if he's playing. And then you have Scott Barrett, who's also a little bit older, but he is the current captain. He will be around until the next World Cup. Apart from that, you've got Fabian Holland, and then you have, just naming players who have been called up before, Sam Darry, who's missed just this year injured. I feel like with Vai moving to 6, it means Darry is way more likely to come back into the All Blacks. Because they named him as a player who was unavailable.
Did you just say the All Whites, mate?
I might have. They named him as a player who was unavailable due to injury, alongside a lot of other guys. I think they were just showing the guys who were in the squad last year, but it means that they still rank Darry. So I feel like he plays next season and he's still playing well. He could be back up, because him and Holland together is a scary lock partnership, or one of them coming off the bench with Barrett is very, very scary. Although if Vai is playing at 6, they probably won't have a lock on the bench, because they're starting with 3 locks. But then after Darry, you've got Josh Lord, who still a lot of question marks alongside him. Then after that, we really have to make sure we've got other locking options.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do. Like I said, the Blues, Josh Bear surprised a lot of people this year. You still have Walker Leadaway at the Hurricanes. You have Schafer at the Crusaders. There are options. We just need to maybe bleed in a few of them maybe a bit earlier than they would, usually, if we are going to commit with IE at 6, which I don't think is a bad idea.
No, and also speaking of Nato Akoi, always been a big fan of that guy's game. I said it on here. Me and my dad have loved to see him play, so I'd like to see him get called in as that injury cover up. But it's good to see him at training anyway. But I think I thought our lock depth last year wasn't very good. Turns out it might actually be better than we thought. So
yeah, I think it is. I think Fabian Holland for a couple of years had been highly rated. And he's shown that he can do the job.
Yeah,
and then there's also one more selection question with Severis probably missing next week due to concussion.
Yeah.
What do you do with that right wing position? Because apart from Rieko Ioane, who's been pushed out to the wing, the only winger is Caleb Clark.
Yeah.
But there is also Tavatava Nawai, who used to play on the wing, but has earned his role into the All Blacks from his performances at centre.
Yeah.
And then Will Jordan, who I've been saying you have to play him at fullback if he's available.
Agreed.
Played very well on the right wing.
Which he was going to. He plays well at right wing, fullback. You could play him at centre and he'll still score a bloody try.
And this is only going to be for one game. Perhaps. I feel like we could see McKenzie starting at fullback in the next game because Reece is injured. They'll push Jordan for one game on the right unless they play super well a game, and then they'll say, oh, well, we'll keep Jordan on the right and keep McKenzie at 15, which, I mean, if that's it, that's it. And then they'll probably have Ruben Love coming on the bench to cover 10 and 15.
You know what's funny? I actually think that I was just thinking about this. So I personally think Caleb Clark is starting the next game. I think you have to you have to have a proper winger out there. I know Will Jordan's a proper winger, don't get me wrong, but he is naturally a fullback. But with that being said, I think he does start. But I do also think they play McKenzie at the back and Will Jordan on the right wing.
So are you suggesting that we're going to get Clark on the left, Jordan on the right, McKenzie at fullback? So on the bench, we have a cheeky little Ruben Love. And are you saying that Rieko Ioane goes on the bench?
So I'm saying Rieko Ioane goes on the bench. But
fair.
I'm also going to say it's not going to be Ruben Love.
Who do you think is going to be Ruben Love?
I think, and I said this to you before this started, I said that I think Tavatava Nawai gets involved in this game in some way. So I actually think we go with those two on the bench.
Yeah.
And because you've got Bowden Barrett who can play 10 and 15, you've got McKenzie, or those a fullback, can play 15 and 10.
And Jordan, who can also play 15.
I think you've got enough cover there
and
anyway.
Also Geordie Barrett, who can probably play any backline position if you ask him to. I think that's a really good point. And I want Tavatava Nawai and Tupaia involved more.
Yes.
It was good to see Tupaia.
Tupaia didn't play too bad when he came on either.
I didn't think he did either. I thought he played very well.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more of him. It's hard with Geordie Barrett in that inside centre position, and also Tavatava Nawai primarily being an inside centre this year. And then you have Leonard Brown, who can cover 13, but he's also a 12 as well. Wonder if he's back from injury.
We have a lot of centres.
We have a lot of centres, and I do see why 6 were named, because a few of them can play on the wing.
Yes.
Or at fullback if you're Geordie Barrett. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what decisions Razor makes with the loose forwards, if he keeps Vi at blindside, and if he keeps everything else the same. And also in the back line, where does Jordan get moved out to the wing? Does McKenzie get moved to fullback? Does Rico stay on the wing? Does Billy stay at 13? Does Geordie stay at 12? Maybe he wants to spice it up a little bit.
True.
But we will see.
But the one thing I wanted to get off before we in this conversation talk about this last madness of New Zealand rugby, but I did want to say that with Caleb Clark starting, a big reason why I said that in this game, we, surprisingly to me, were not very good under the high ball.
No,
we that was not our best game under the high ball. And I think a huge part of Caleb Clark's game is being able to get up for that high ball.
Yeah.
And I think we need that. And that's why I think he's starting. And once he gets started, who knows what's going to happen? Especially after last year, he was our top try scorer. So
exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's why Caleb Clark is starting. I think you need that out there, and just to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think he needs to play in the series. Like,
big facts.
I wouldn't drop him for Rieko Ioane full time, because obviously Rieko hasn't played wing permanently or seriously in a very long time. So.
And to be fair, I mean, look, he did get one good breakaway, and in terms of defense, he was great on the wing, which is like something he's very much improved and has been great at 13. I think he did it at 11, but maybe it's just a thing of him getting back into it. But maybe it's a little bit. I don't want to say past his time because I don't think he is, but I feel like when he was playing winger back in the days, he was a little bit more agile.
Rico?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's not as agile and probably doesn't have that burst of pace he previously did.
Yeah.
Because I think he committed himself so much to convert to centre.
Centre, yeah.
But yeah, I was a bit surprised that a lot of people were still very much convinced that if you put him back to wing, all of his issues would be resolved.
The whole country has been convinced that if you put him back to wing, he's going to. Yeah.
He hasn't played wing in several years. I think he'd do the job, but I don't think he's he's going to drastically improve.
No.
And I think
No, it is one game.
It is
fair,
one game.
So.
He could play on the wing again and absolutely kill it.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see who gets named and how we play again, if we are able to right the wrongs of last week by improving in certain areas, maybe not conceding as much, scoring more. That's always ideal.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Welcome to the Captain Obvious
podcast. Welcome to Obvious Side, you know.
Obvious Side.
Obvious Side.
The Obvious Side Sports Report. But no, look, I'm sure we will improve, but those loose forwards and some of those backs is going to be interesting. But to end off this let's call it local rugby.
Yes.
What madness is this? 43 years old, Mr. Ma'anonu himself has. So he signed, I think it was late in the season with Toulon in the top 14.
He signed what they call a medical joker contract in France, which is like injury cover.
Yeah.
Because he had been with San Diego Legion. I think that's what they're called in MLR. And I think the plan was he was going to go back there, but he was in France apparently to get his coaching badges. And so he went to Toulon because it made sense because France's league is good. So apparently he was with the U18s, and so they didn't have any hit-up partners in the U18, so he trained with the U18s because why wouldn't he? And then the French centre / at a brief time loose forward Mathieu Bastard, the big guy, he asked Nonu to train with him to keep fit, and apparently he couldn't keep up with Nonu.
Jeez.
Who's about 10 years older than him. And so he told Toulon that, and Toulon needed cover at centre, so they brought Ma'a in.
That's crazy, man.
And, he played... They took good care of him. He's only playing off the bench for 20 minutes because he is 42, 43.
Yeah.
But he signed a 1-year extension at Toulon, which is crazy.
Bro.
I don't know...
Extended, bro.
I don't know if that means he is going back to San Diego first, then going back to Toulon, which I feel like will probably happen, have him in as a body for the latter half of the season. But, yeah, shout out to Ma'anonu. And there were other results on the weekend. Māori All Blacks narrowly going down in Whangarei to Scotland 26-29. It was a good second half comeback for them. They held on to the ball a lot after the buzzer. Unfortunately, Scotland managed to get it out of there safely.
Tough.
I watched a little bit of this game. Scotland team playing quite well while missing a lot of their stars. Māori All Blacks, I think, lacked a little bit of discipline. There were some strange calls. There were two, I don't exactly remember what they were, but two strange yellow card rulings like right next to each other.
Yes.
Which was a bit weird. I felt like players played well, though, for the Māori All Blacks. Cullen Grace, I think, showing why he's one of the better loose forwards, which hasn't been in the All Black system for a while. The U20s, big win over Georgia, 38-19. Which is a very good win for us and a vital win as Italy did beat Ireland in the other game in our group. So we're the only undefeated team there, and we play Ireland on Thursday morning at 4 a.m. And then obviously the Black Ferns taking on the Black Ferns 15, which did include Ruby Tui, 46-12 win. Ruby Tui did score a double. She's probably trying to put her foot in the door to get back into the World Cup squad because she wasn't in the Black Ferns squad earlier this year. So has she done enough to get herself back into the team? We'll see.
I can't. For Ruby Tui, just very quickly, for Ruby Tui, I think it's pretty tough when you get an 18-year-old Braxton Sorensen McGee playing the way that she's playing. I think that's probably why Ruby Tui isn't in the squad.
And the fact that Portia Woodman has moved to the centres, who's also been dominant winger in the past alongside Ruby Tui. In fact, she's moved into the centres, and there's still other wingers who are being selected ahead of Ruby Tui. Like, it's tough.
Yeah, and then Portia Woodman, for the game against the US, which I went to, moves back onto the wing
Yeah.
and scores 7 tries.
Yeah.
Just what she does,
It's
man.
tough, but Ruby Tui it's just an incredible player still.
I do hope Ruby Tui somehow finds a way into the squad. Only way I can think of that happening, though, is if they extend it a little bit for the World Cup.
I think they might be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'd love to see Tui involved. She's a legend of the women's game here, a legend of just the game in general in
Big
New Zealand
facts.
over the past 5
Yeah.
years. I think that last World Cup was a big
Yeah.
breakout for her,
Yeah.
although she'd already been killing it beforehand. It was that breakout to a wide audience.
And for a little bit, Ruby Tui was neighbours with my auntie and uncle.
Oh, how good.
Yeah, so there you go. Little connection there.
Little connection.
Yeah.
And then the All Blacks obviously playing again on Saturday against the French in Wellington. So that's all the more local-based rugby, and we'll move quickly on to the NRL. Not a lot to talk about as the Warriors were not playing last weekend. Luke Metcalf, I think we mentioned the last episode, out for the season, ACL tear. Devastating stuff.
I decide to be a fan this year. I commit myself this year, and the bug hits again.
I think it's just how we play, or just like a curse. It has to be. But I think that does mean we'll get to see Tanner Boyd in an NRL situation, who's been killing it for our New South Wales Cup team. A lot of people have been clamouring for him to play earlier this season, so we might get to see a bit of him.
I'm going to presume it's going to be him and Tamati Martin starting. Because who's at the moment? Oh, you got Chanel.
You got Chanel.
But
Chance
it's going to be interesting.
is also injured, so I think Topiki gets back into the lineup if he. I can't even remember if Topiki was playing.
Yeah.
Or if everyone else was fit.
Was it recently that Tuopiki took one of the worst shots I've ever seen
in New South Wales Cup?
It
was like 30 seconds before the end, and someone just king hit him basically to end the game, which is disrespectful and just horrendous.
Do better.
But a couple of big results. The Broncos win over the Bulldogs.
Yes.
In Sydney, 18-22.
They're heating up, man.
The Broncos are heating up. The Raiders 28-24 win over the Dragons. The Storm beat the Cowboys 26-20. And then the Tigers beat the Roosters 30-28. So all tight games, and you're probably thinking, oh, we're going to end off the round with a tight game. No, the Sea Eagles beat the Rabbitohs 30-12. Origin is this Wednesday as well. Kurt Capewell is playing for Queensland. It will be at 10 p.m. By this Wednesday, because of when we recorded this, it's tonight at 10 p.m. So as the Raiders and the Bulldogs and the Broncos all played on this, and the Storm all played on this round, there is a bit of change at the table. The Raiders are now on top, or still on top, on 30 points. And the Storm have overtaken the Bulldogs on point difference. So the Bulldogs are now third, and they're now on 28 points. The Warriors are still fourth for 26, but the Broncos are still fifth, only 4 points behind on 22. Your Panthers, the Panthers, I don't know how they're here. They're sixth on 21, and then the Dolphins and the Sea Eagles round out your top 8 on 20 points, but the Roosters and Sharks are also on 20 points each. And the Rabbitohs are now tied on points with the Titans, but the Titans are below them in 17th. Because of points difference.
The Raiders have quietly built a very, very good side, and now they're showing it.
They quietly have.
Could they carry on? Who knows? I actually had a conversation about the Warriors with another Warriors fan at work. It's going to be tough to hold on to that fourth spot with Mitch Barnett and I was about to say Capewell, Mitch Barnett and Luke Metcalf,
both injured,
both out for the year. That's going to be tough. Do I think we could still hold on to the top 8? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I think we hold on to the top 4?
I'd
love to say we would. I'm not so sure with the Broncos now heating up. So.
It'll be very tough. But the Warriors do get to host the Tigers on Sunday at 4 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Games of note across the league. You've got the Sharks taking on the Dolphins, and the Dragons taking on the Roosters.
We are keeping that.
I don't pay enough attention to cut this out of the podcast, so I was mid-sentence. It would have been impossible. But NRLW.
Yes, sir.
NRL Women's Premiership starting off for the year. The Warriors women's team are back after a 6-year hiatus. Left the league during COVID and weren't able to come back until this year. Don't really personally know how good all the teams are in the NRLW. There were a couple of big results, a couple of close games. The Warriors, unfortunately, had to travel to Sydney to take on the reigning champions, the Roosters, where they did lose 30-6. But this is a Warriors side where a lot of their players were making the NRLW debut.
Yeah.
A few players had played NRLW before. A couple were converts from the Black Ferns, and one of those converts, Patricia Malepu, or Malepo. Apologies on
Patricia Maliepo.
Maliepo.
There we
Okay, I
go.
was wrong 2 times before I was correct.
Hey, but you actually tried. That's
yeah.
the point.
Yeah, thank you. But she scored and converted the Warriors' lone try. She's a former Black Fern, used to play for the Blues.
Yep.
And is a very, very, very good player. The Warriors host the Eels on Sunday ahead of the men's fixture against the Tigers. The Eels, for context, pipped the Storm 18-16 in their first game of the season.
Glad to see the women's Warriors back, man.
Good to see them back. I'm trying to watch as many of their games as I can.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was on a long road trip when they were playing, because they're playing at 1 p.m.
You were.
on a Sunday. So unfortunately, I was unable to tune in for that. But the NZNBL had their last regular season. We talked about how the Tauranga Whai needed an absolute miracle to crack the top 6. Dylan, would you like to tell me the series of events which has unfolded in New Zealand's basketball world?
I would like to, sir. That would be fantastic. So, first game of this last round, the Saints take on the Rams. Whoever wins this gets the first seed. Whoever loses it gets the second seed. And the Saints pull it off against the Canterbury Rams 90-84, which means the Wellington Saints are the first seed and the Rams are the second seed. They are done. They're in. Then, the next game, my Tauranga Whai, Cruiser's Tauranga Whai, played the Manawatu Jets, and we needed to win this to even have a chance of getting into the top 6, and that's exactly what they did. Going in, I'd say going in, but winning at home 103-93. Now, the Jets did suffer a little bit because Corey Webster is injured.
I did see he didn't play, and I was wondering why that was the case.
So that was quite the loss there. Although Quinton Rose of the Jets in that game did drop 40. Unfortunately, it was in a loss for them.
That's insane to score basically half your team's points and lose.
Yeah. And then the Nelson Giants take on the Southland Sharks for the Whai to get in. They probably had to have the Giants lose this game, and that is what happened after a big Southland Sharks comeback. They are ready to go. They are much improved. They win the game 91-87. Southland Sharks confirm their spot in the top 4. Somehow. They were last year. Top 4 this year. Big turnaround. They're in. That's another domino gone. The Taranaki Airs then played the Otago Nuggets, and the Taranaki Airs took out the win 93-83. That confirms Taranaki Airs as the 3rd seed. That is the top 4 done. 5 and 6 to go. Then you have the Hawke's Bay Hawks and the Auckland Tuatara. The Whai really needed the Hawke's Bay Hawks to win this and upset the Auckland Tuatara. Unfortunately, they did not do that at home. Auckland Tuatara took out the dominant win 96-67, and that means they are the 5th seed. 1 more to go. It is not done. The Jets needed to save their season when they played the Otago Nuggets. And unfortunately, the Otago Nuggets came out with nothing to lose. I think they've only won like 2-3 games this season, including this one. They played the Jets 101-95. That pretty much knocked the Jets out. And then the last game of the season, the Canterbury Rams took on the Franklin Bulls. The Franklin Bulls were in the 6th seed.
They were 6
at the start of this game. But the Rams go into their second, well, they're going to be the 2nd seed, into the playoffs with a win. They win 107-94, which meant that the Bulls are out. The Jets are out. What does that mean? That means the Whai are in, baby.
It's great.
Let's go.
Great for us as 2 Aucklanders. The Tuatara and the Whai both get in because obviously
man.
you've got the cruise connection with Tauranga, and because of that, I've also, been hoping the Whai play well, but also being from Auckland, I want the Tuatara to play well as well. And also I've got friends in Tauranga as well, so I would like their team to be good.
Big facts.
And
they're in, man.
Because the Bulls were 6th heading into that final day, but because they lost, they had the same record as the Whai, and because the win percentage that the NZNBL uses also includes the Rapid League scores, which is a shorter basketball game that gets played before every game where they don't use the starters, which I think is a really cool initiative.
It is.
Because of that, that's why the Whai's win percentage was higher, because I believe on Tribe it was showing that the overall percentage was the Bulls was higher because it wasn't taken into account, and the actual NZNBL page was responding to comments saying that doesn't take into account Rapid League. So
the Whai had a very good Rapid League team. Shout out to Jaden Bazant, who should have been MVP of the Rapid League, can I just say?
Yeah.
But they ended up finishing 2nd.
So that definitely helped.
So that definitely helps. So the Tuatara are in at 5th and the Fire in at 6th. So this is how it's going to go. So the Saints and Rams 1 and 2, they get the bye. They're into the semi-finals. Then you get 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. Whoever wins those, they go into the semi-finals. So the Taranaki Airs will be hosting the Tauranga Whai.
Today.
3 versus 6 today at 7.
Good
today
game.
at 7. That's going to be a good one. I'm going to be hoping my Whai go on an awesome 3-game run, which I know they're capable of. But that Taranaki Airs team is tough. You've got Craig Moller down there, the Australian. He's had heaps of ANBL experience. He's playing well. Who else is there? Carlin Davidson, Breaker. He's been fantastic. It's going to be tough down there, man. But let's hope the Tauranga Whai can pull that off, or at least I hope that happens. And then I think this will be an excellent game tomorrow when this comes out, which will be the Southland Sharks hosting in Invercargill the Auckland Tuatara for 4th and 5th. The Southland Sharks have ended on a roll, but so have the Auckland Tuatara. You could argue these are the 2 hottest teams in the league at the moment.
When we saw that Tuatara team play in Auckland against the Whai the other week, they were deadly. They were very, tough, very, very good. And they looked like the top team in the comp, at least in my opinion, when we saw them. So that's going to be a great, great game.
But so are the Sharks, man, led by their 2 imports, which they really hit on this year, especially Josiah Alec, who I personally think should be MVP, and Keelan Boone as well, both playing well down there. So that's going to be an excellent game. And then the semi-finals start on Saturday with the Rams hosting 1, and then also Wellington hosting 1 as well.
Saturday 2 p.m, Sunday 3 p.m. Your NBL semi-finals. The final, I assume, is sometime next week.
Yeah.
You reckon it was going to be on a neutral venue, supposedly Auckland?
So I don't think it's going to be now.
Oh, okay.
I would like it to be on a neutral venue because
if it's in Auckland, then I'd be trying to
we're
go.
going through.
Even if it's like the Saints versus the Ears or something, which is like
I'll still go.
Yeah, well, no, it's like they have the final in Auckland, but the 2 teams are from Wellington and Palmerston North. Probably just playing in Wellington at that point.
Well, and New Plymouth.
Oh, sorry, not Palmerston North.
The Airs are from
New Plymouth. Everyone gets those 2 cities mixed up, I swear.
I
swear
you just offended everybody from down there.
No.
But yeah, so
I mean all 5 people.
That's an awesome finish. Very happy my Whai get in.
Yeah.
And I hope they, look, they've already made me proud anyway.
As long as they don't get smashed, it's good.
Exactly. So
as long as they don't get smashed, it's good.
Man, but we'll move on to the ANZ Premiership Netball, which they are about. This was their second to last round. They're about to go into their last round of the regular season. The Central Pulse get a huge win over the Northern Stars, 65-44, to propel them back into 3rd place.
Yes.
The Northern Mystics, they get a huge win as well over the Southern Steel in a close one, 56-52, which put the Southern Steel in 4th. And then the Mainland Tactics. Whoa, can't get the Christchurch one wrong.
No, you can't.
The Mainland Tactics beat the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic 68-57. So at the moment, the Mystics are on top with 24 points. The Tactics are on 22. That's probably going to end up being your top 2.
That's your top 2.
That's your top 2. Then the Pulse are 3rd right now on 16 points. The Steel are 4th on 14. The Magic are 5th on 8. And the Stars are on 6 on 3. So pretty much in next week's last round, you've got the Magic versus the Pulse and the Steel versus the Stars. The Steel will need the Magic to beat the Pulse to get into the top 3. And I look, love my guys in Wellington.
Yeah.
Love my Central Pulse. But the Southern Steel being this good this year, after being not very good at all for the past 2 years, I'd love to see them get top 3 this year.
I'd love to see them get in as well. And also the Magic and the Tactics, that's 1 hosting 2. That will determine who the number 1 seed is, as the Mystics are only 2 points ahead of the Tactics. I believe the Tactics win that they will go ahead of the Mystics. And
they
obviously,
would.
The Mystics win, they will remain ahead of the Tactics.
True.
So it's really interesting, that final round of ANZ Premiership. Then I believe how their finals work is 2nd place 3rd, and then the winner of that plays first in the grand final.
Yep.
So for the Mystics, it's looking like that they will be in that grand final, and the Tactics will be hosting one of the Pulse or the Steel in the other one. So interesting to see.
Hoping for my Auckland Northern Mystics to finish
Local,
first, but Tactics tough, man.
Local team for me, just down the road in Henderson. So
yes, sir.
Have to support them. And then moving on to the last bit of local sport, which we could have rolled into the NZNBL.
That we could have.
but we didn't. But the under-19 All Blacks competing at the under-19 Basketball World Cup, a year off from the U17 New Zealand side finishing 4th at their World Cup last year.
Which pretty much a lot of these guys were the same from that team.
Once again, exceeding expectations and blowing them out of the water. Their group stage, on paper, I saw teams like Argentina and Serbia and went, these might be games where we could be very, very concerned about. And then Mali, who you don't know much about Mali, but we bet Argentina by 5 and then bet Mali by 23 before going down to Serbia 103-97. But Serbia is a very good basketball nation. We still top up group, and we get China in the round of 16. We beat them 99-86, an Asian rival. China sometimes have a couple of players. I am seeing now way more dual national players at the U19 FIFA World Cup.
Yes, there
that
is.
Chinese team had, I think, about 2 or 3 Americans.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That is becoming more of a thing.
Guys who are like top college prospects but have a Chinese parent or grandparent have decided to pledge early, because I feel like players now are more and more realizing how great international basketball is.
Yeah,
and if
man.
you have getting on the Team USA is so unnecessarily difficult, considering the majority of the top players in the world are American.
Which we'll talk about very soon.
We will. So playing for another nation, even if it's not as good as the US, it's potential, because you're going to get more exposure if you play well at a FIBA World Cup or at the Olympics, which I think a lot of people want to go to.
And also at the same time, you get to play more. Like that's what it is. That's what it is at the end of the day. And like I hate to get too serious on it, but it will explain my point. When I was younger playing basketball, I may have said this on this podcast before, but I realize now I focused a lot on result. When really I should have focused on the process. And how do you make the process better? You play. And you got to play more. And that's exactly what I think guys are realizing, which I think is really awesome. So, but carry on with that one, mate, because we go into the quarterfinals against the host Switzerland, and what happens?
Oh, we win 84-70.
Come on!
14 points isn't bad.
Come on!
We're in the semi-finals for the second year in a row at the Youth World Cup. Unfortunately, the draw's not super kind to us. We get the United States.
Yeah, tough.
This United States team is led by some very highly rated young prospects. AJ Dibansa, the number 1 prospect from this incoming freshman class in the college scene in the US, playing for, of all teams, BYU. And he was joined by Michael Brown and Tyron Stokes. They're all also very highly rated players. And when you play the US at any youth level, if you're any youth team, it's always difficult. And we definitely felt that it was a 64-120 thumping. But for context, the US team beat a very, very good German side, 109-76, which is almost as bad of a thumping.
Yeah.
So
the ones that actually got closest to them, funnily enough, was their neighbours up north, Canada, who also came with a fantastic team, including
I know who you're talking
a
about.
7'9" centre who just played at Florida, Oliver Rue.
I think he was a red shirt, but
Yeah,
obviously they let him cut the ribbon standing. Look, we talked about him. Remember?
Yeah,
during March
he
Madness.
He stood like so.
Because this was your funny moment from the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So his Florida team won the NCAA March Madness. They won the NCAA title. Usually when you win a title, especially in the States, you cut the net off the hoop. Oliver Rue goes up to do this and stands on his 2 feet, reaches up to pretty much a 10-foot rim and the net that's just below it, and starts cutting the net.
Yeah.
Little bits of the net craziness, but
It's nuts.
man.
It's absolutely crazy how tall he is. But
they the US only beat them in the quarterfinals, beat Canada by 6.
Shit.
That was probably their biggest challenge there. But look, fair play to the US team. Not fair play to their supporters, though, as I was scrolling TikTok.
Oh, no.
And I saw a video of another US person making fun of our haka, saying pretty much being like, you're doing all of this just to go and get smacked by however much.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's culture.
It's culture.
Do you guys not understand what culture is, man? Like, it's like you go and do any research on a haka anywhere, you will see how important it is to us here in New Zealand. No matter who you are in New Zealand, by the way. If you're a New Zealander, you know what a haka is. And I personally think every person in New Zealand should learn how to do one.
We learned it in school.
Exactly.
Don't remember it, but we learned it.
So start appreciating culture, man. There's so much more to life than just sticking, on. We're saying this as we're talking into a camera with microphones, but like, there's more things to do than staying inside as Charles Barkley said, sitting in your in your grandma's basement with your drawers on,
yeah.
with cookie crumbs on the stomach.
Charles Barkley, great analogy from him.
I love that guy, man. But yeah, USA take the gold. AJ Dybance is probably going to be the #1 pick next year.
It will be. On what team though? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, that will be interesting.
Imagine if it's Utah. That'd be funny.
It'd be crack up.
What?
Could actually be the Thunder.
It could actually be the Thunder.
Could actually be the Thunder.
Whose pick do they have?
So they have the Jazzes.
Oh, jeez.
Now, it is protected. I'm pretty sure it's
Okay,
protected.
is it protected? Okay.
So it's protected. I can't remember it's either top 3 or top 10. I can't remember which one. If it is top 10,
then what's the point in having the pick?
Exactly. So it's somewhat protected there. But AJ Dybance is going to be #1 pick. Mikal Brown, funnily enough, so AJ Dybance did get the MVP of this. But Mikal Brown, I actually think was the best player on the US team. He led everything.
Yeah.
He played very well. And Tyron Stokes is actually he's younger.
Yeah.
Than both those guys. He could play in under 17s this year.
Really? Jeez.
He could play in under 17s this year. I think that's how young he is. He's going to be a top pick in 2027's NBA draft. He's going to be mean. So
back to our Tall Blacks. We did go down in the bronze final, unfortunately, to a good Slovenian side, 87-91. But some of our players absolutely just impressing everyone.
Awesome,
Hayden
man.
Jones, who is on his way, I believe, to Wisconsin. Which is a huge school. Oscar Goodman was on this team.
Yep, he's off to Michigan.
And other players I've forgotten about.
Tama Isaac was actually on the all-tournament second team.
Great for him.
He played awesome. He was playing at the Canterbury Rams, but he is about to go to, I think it's UC Irvine.
Oh, yeah.
But there's like 2 of those guys in our team that are going to go to Wisconsin. Oscar Goodman's going to Michigan. Like, it's so good. Not only is it actually great exposure for those guys, and they'll go to college with that, but at the same time, it's great for the NZNBL because pretty much all of those guys are playing minutes, and not in rapid league, by the way. They're playing on the teams, and they're playing minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure Hayden Jones is starting for the Nelson Giants.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Tama Isaac was starting for quite a while with the Rams. Oscar Goodman, I'm sure, would do the same thing if he was still here. I think he's playing at NBA Academy at the moment.
Yeah, I think he either went overseas or went to a prep school.
Yeah, so
which, obviously.
Yeah, so I mean, it got him to Michigan, so fair play.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, it's great for New Zealand basketball that this happened. So. Yeah, I mean, who knows where those guys are going to go, man? Who knows what it's going to look like? Also, Tauranga Fire's own Carter Hopoi, who was also starting all of this year.
Oh, wow.
Was a guy on that team as well.
I didn't realize Carter was
as
there.
You've called the oldest 19-year-old you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's a great wrap-up of local sport right there.
I thought I was going to say something else, but apparently I'm not.
Well, you can go.
Well, no,
free speech.
No,
mate.
I thought I had something else to say about this, but I don't think I do. That's the Under-19 People World Cup.
Yeah, man.
And moving on to the international sport, where we will stick with the NBA and the trades and the free agencies free agency deals just keep on rolling in. We're just going to name off a couple of these quickly.
Tough, bro.
Actually, you're just gonna say yes or no whether I talk about this. I know this is gonna sound so. You look from the start of this list to the bottom, and if you say yes, I'll read up the trade. If I say no, I'll skip it.
Okay, sweet. So I'm looking. So
from the first trade.
So the first trade, I'm going to say. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Read them out, and I'll quickly blurb about them.
Okay, cool.
Let's go.
But quickly.
Yep, I got you. Don't worry.
So
I got the speed.
We'll start off. Yeah. The Denver Nuggets trade Michael Porter Jr. and a 2032 first-round pick to the Brooklyn Nets for Cameron Johnson.
Cameron Johnson, great shooter, of course. He's going to be great for the Nuggets. Space it out. Nikola Jokic is going to get even more space.
Jeez.
And Michael Porter Jr. gets a little bit of a restart at the Brooklyn Nets. So I think that it definitely works out for the Nuggets for sure.
Sweet. Then you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker to the Atlanta Hawks in a 4-year, $62 million contract.
He played at the Minnesota Timberwolves this recent season. They'd done a lot of re-signing. They re-signed Naz Reid to a huge contract. So I think it was going to be pretty tough for Alexander-Walker to stay at Minnesota. But he goes to Atlanta, who are quietly building up a team down there if they can all stay healthy. But funnily enough, he is also the cousin of the recent Finals MVP and NBA MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Didn't know that.
So there you go.
That's crazy. And then we have Dorian Finney-Smith to Houston on a 4-year, $53 million contract.
Houston are building a title contender there, man. There was a huge 7-team trade that just got confirmed that sent Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. They re-signed Jabari Smith Jr., which is huge. Dorian Finney-Smith's a very solid player there, whether you play him off the bench or play him as a starter. Houston just continue to make themselves title contenders, man. The battle in Texas is on between them, San Antonio, and Dallas. That's for sure.
That's a very scary 3-horse race. And then you have Julius Randle extending with the Minnesota Timberwolves on a 3-year, $100 million contract.
A little bit surprised to see that, but he was awesome in the playoffs. Good on him.
And then you have Jaren Jackson Jr. remaining with the Memphis Grizzlies on a huge 5-year, $240 million contract.
So there was heaps of talk last year about them actually not doing this and him not being signed to this because they think it's too much. There were a lot of people outside of on other media saying he wasn't worth that. I think he's too much of an excellent defensive player to let Memphis go. The one thing he's got to do though, stop fouling. He can be a little bit foul prone, but he's still young, does have a 3-point shot, and can continue to improve his offensive game, but as a defender he's outstanding. I'm pretty sure he's a former defensive player of the year as well, so there you go.
Sweet. And then we have James Harden re-signing with the Los Angeles Clippers on an $81.5 million contract. The length is unknown.
Well, I doubt if it's an $81.5 million contract is for a year. But James Harden played great for the Clippers this year. The Clippers actually had an underrated great season, especially with Ivica Zubac holding it down there at center. So I think that's a great re-signing for the Clippers. Although it is a little bit expensive. I imagine that's a 2-3 year contract. But James Harden's played great for them and a great veteran presence there as well.
And then you have LeBron James exercising his player option to remain with the Lakers next season.
His son's on the team. He was always going to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. You have Dennis Schroeder to the Sacramento Kings on a 3-year, $45 million contract.
That guy's passed around like chump change on
he's getting $15 million a year. So,
but he's a solid player. I'm just not sure that's the right deal for the Sacramento Kings. A 3-year, $45 for him. But this is also kind of a pattern with the Sacramento Kings. But look, he's a solid backup point guard. Can start as well. So he's still got it there, man.
Sweet. And then you have Duncan Robinson to the Detroit Pistons on a 3-year, $48 million contract via a sign and trade.
I'm not sure who they traded. I'm going to guess it's to Miami. But in saying that, Duncan Robinson's going to be a great shooter for Detroit down there, which probably needs more shooting. They've got Malik Beasley, who's great, but you probably need another one there as well. Detroit's slowly building up. They took the Knicks to the limit in their conference semifinals this year.
Any team with Cade Cunningham, it's gonna be good.
Big facts. And if he continues to improve, come on. They got something down there. And Jalen Duren is great big man down there as well. Great young big man.
Then you have Jakob Poeltl extending with Toronto on a 4-year, $104 million contract.
Your boy is back,
my
baby.
Boy. It's a big deal though. It's a huge deal.
That is a huge deal.
About $25-ish million a year.
Jakob Poeltl's a solid big though. Has been Austrian guy. He's been for quite a while. Not sure I would have done it that expensive. But hey.
Considering that Miles Turner was available for 4 years, $107 million, but ended up at the Milwaukee Bucks.
I'm surprised he didn't sign back for the Pacers, but the Pacers are known for being quite conservative. I just don't think they should have. They literally got to the finals. So Milwaukee, to do this, they released Damian Lillard, who tore his Achilles, and stretched out his contract so that they'd almost do like a Bobby Bonilla in baseball. If you know Bobby Bonilla Day, you know. But yeah, that's big for Milwaukee. I just don't think it's enough to compete with those big boys in the East when we're talking Celtic stuff along those lines.
It's a big move though. They get a big center to partner Giannis and the other players on that Bucks team. And then you have MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander extending with the Oklahoma City Thunder for 4 years, $285 million.
If he didn't do that, what are you doing? The Thunder are so set up for him. All he's got to do is keep playing well, which is a lot easier said than done. Don't get me wrong, but there's I think that's no nonsense right there.
Then you have DeAndre Ayton joining the Los Angeles Lakers on a 2-year contract. I don't have a cost written down here.
They finally get a center though. They tried to trade for Mark Williams from the Hornets, who's a great young center.
Who's now at the Suns.
Got traded to the Suns. So that unfortunately didn't work out for the Lakers, but they do get DeAndre Ayton, who hopefully still has a little bit of that great form that got the Suns to the NBA Finals a few years ago. Still in him, and if he does, that Lakers team's looking pretty good.
It is. In the final trade I have written down here, the only trade from today, Free team deal sees the Los Angeles Clippers get John Collins, the Miami Heat getting Norman Powell, and the Utah Jazz getting Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 Clippers second round pick.
So Miami get a great scorer and great player there, as you know, from the
Norman
Toronto
Powell,
days.
2019,
Norman Powell.
shout out to him.
There you go. And Norman Powell, he's still got it. He was great for the Clippers this year, so Miami get that. Does that mean that takes them from what I would consider a play-in team? I'm not so sure.
The East is too tough.
The LA Clippers, I think John Collins, underrated. Underrated player for me. Was at the Utah Jazz, kind of, I guess, in NBA terms, playing worthless minutes, but was great when he was in Atlanta, and I think that's great. Big depth there for the LA Clippers, and he can shoot the 3 too. And then Utah get 2 veterans to go with their young core of now Ace Bailey, Bryce Sensabaugh, who both went off in the Summer League as of we're recording today, but it would be yesterday when this comes out. They also have Keontae George down there. They've got Walker Kessler. They've still got Larry Markkinen, so it's good to get a balance of veteran guys that can hopefully show those guys, because Utah could have something down there if everything works out for them. But how was that for your quick fire, mate?
That was good. That was nice.
Let's go.
Nice and quick, nice and informative, and we can move straight along from the NBA to the international rugby tours.
Yes, sir.
Kind of involving New Zealand. The British and Irish Lions have played 2 games since a 52-12 demolition of the Reds and a tighter 21-10 win over the Waratahs. Tonight at 10 p.m. at the same time as Origin, they are playing the Brumbies, and then a game I highly recommend watching if you don't have anything to do at 10 p.m. on a Saturday is I believe it's actually the AUNZ team, invitational team, not the Anzac 15 in Adelaide. The Lions have added Owen Farrell to their squad apparently, but he hasn't been named to play the Brumbies. We'll see how many minutes he does get. But the AUNZ invitational team has announced its full squad, and the New Zealanders they've got onto this team are very, very tasty. A lot of players who were in the Barbarians game against South Africa. So you have Shannon Frizzell, Sean Stevenson, David Harvey, Falau Fakatava, Nani Laumape, Josh Fusitua, AJ Lamb, Hoskins Sotutu, and Kurt Eklund from New Zealand, and then some of the big Australians named who... these are still some big names in my opinion. You have Marika Korobidi, Pete Samu, Aiden Ross, who is a former All Black who is now going to be vying to be a Wallabies prop, as he's already played for the Reds after being in the Super Rugby final with the Chiefs about a month ago. Played for the Reds in that loss to the Lions. You've also got Brandon Painga Amosa. You also have Jeffrey Tomonga Allen, who also played for the All Blacks briefly, but he's been in Australia. I think so, because he's a Kiwi, Tomonga Allen.
That's a good point.
Then you also have Tane Edward, who is the Waratahs 10 who played at North Harbour either last year or the year before. This team could be very, very interesting to see. I like to see all those Blues guys in that team. I like to see all the other Kiwis in that team. Ian Foster is an assistant coach on this team. This will be a really fun game to watch. Hopefully the team gel really well, and we can maybe give the Lions their first loss on Australian soil this tour.
Yeah, I usually have to start work early on a Sunday morning, but I may stay up for this. I can't lie.
You might have to. You might just have to. And I think we mentioned, I don't think we mentioned this actually, the First Nations and Pacific 15, which the Lions play later on in the tour, have announced Kurtley Beale, Rob Leota, Sedu Edu, Charlie Gamble and Andy Muirhead as their first 5 players. It'll be interesting to see if any Kiwi guys make that team. Maybe it's some of the guys from the AUNZ team. We'll see what happens. Other results from the world of rugby. Japan beating Wales in Kitakyushu 24-19. Wales were ahead for a bit of this game. They do play again in Kobe on Saturday. That, I believe, was Wales' 17th or 18th test loss in a row, which is bonkers. But we're hoping to beat Wales in their next game, and I know they've got a couple of tough games in the last half of the year at home. South Africa beating Italy 42-24. Don't be fooled by the scoreline. This wasn't the most dominant Springbok performance. A lot of people were quick to remind Springbok fans that they didn't play great against Italy when they tried to, spray on New Zealand for playing not too great against France. But they face again in Gukurba, formerly Port Elizabeth, on Sunday morning. Georgia hosted Ireland, still lost 34-5, unfortunately, with a lot of Ireland's top players unavailable because of the Lions. The Georgians are in Bloemfontein this weekend against the Cheetahs, and Ireland are away to Portugal in Lisbon, and then Argentina go down 12-35 at home against England. They'll face again in San Juan, the Argentinian San Juan, on Sunday. And then Australia, at the death, have to beat Fiji 21-18. Not the best look heading into a Lions tour. They have to win on a last-minute try from Harry Wilson. But Australia don't play this weekend as they prepare for the Lions. Fiji hosts Scotland in Suva. I believe Salesi Rayasi played outstanding for Fiji.
He scored.
Former Hurricanes man. I think he may have
Auckland
played.
guy. He's an Auckland guy.
Used to play for All Black Sevens, I believe. Just spent a year in France with Varn and has now just absolutely killed it for Fiji in that game. Good to see more of him in international rugby. And we have a number of other random games this weekend. Uruguay get to host Romania. Canada take on Belgium and Edmonton. The United States host Spain and Charlotte, of all places. And there's only one more week of internationals after these games, except the Lions games. The only team to have not played yet and to play next week is Samoa, which is cool to know. And then Hong Kong have qualified for the World Cup. They're only the second Asian team to ever qualify after Japan. This is because the World Cup is expanding to 24 teams, and there's a direct spot for Asia, and Japan had already qualified automatically. They beat South Korea 22-70 in the last game of their little tournament. It's their first World Cup. United Arab Emirates advanced to the repechage. And speaking just of World Cup qualifying very briefly, the last round of African qualifying starts this week. The final game is on July 20th our time, and the last round of South American qualifying starts later in July. Their final game is in October, and the Pacific qualifying is via the Pacific Nations Cup, where the three best teams other than Fiji and Japan directly qualify. The remaining team, I believe, will just go to the repechage. Fiji and Japan already qualified for the World Cup. And then very briefly, the Under-20 World Rugby Championship. France beating Wales 35-21. Australia beating Scotland 34-24. The before mentioned New Zealand-Georgia game 38-19 to New Zealand. South Africa beating the reigning champions England 32-22. Italy beating Ireland 18-16, and then Argentina only just getting past Spain 33-30. All the other groups very tight. New Zealand undefeated in their first two games, which is good to see. Thursday morning we play Ireland, like we said earlier, but South Africa plays Scotland, Wales play Spain, England play Australia, France play Argentina, and Georgia play Italy. The first knockout games start on Tuesday morning. Interesting to see if we can win that, because we're in a good position to make the semi-finals, and
we also haven't won an under-20 World Championship for quite a while.
It's been a while. We used to win it basically every year, and then we just stopped winning it because the rest of the world caught up to us, which we can now see in the senior game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We need good competition for the game to be good. And I think that's it for all the international rugby, unless you can think of anything. And we're going to quickly move over to the football. And like we said, or Dylan said at the beginning of this podcast, the football world was rocked on Thursday morning in Spain. It was, I believe, Thursday night here. Diego Jota and Andre Silva, two professional footballers, passed away in a car crash in Spain. Jota was well known for his stint at Liverpool. He had been at the club since 2020. He'd recently won the Premier League with them. He had won various other honours with them. He'd been capped by Portugal almost 50 times and had won the Nations League twice. He was a very much loved player by fans of Liverpool, fans of Portugal, fans of his previous clubs. His brother, Andre Silva, also a footballer as well. He was playing in the lower leagues of Portugal, a few years younger than Jota himself. And it was just very, very, very sad to see.
Yeah, man.
Silva was playing for Penafiel in Portugal at the time. Jota, just 28 years old, leaving behind his wife and kids. He only just got married 2 weeks ago. Jota, it's Liverpool fans obviously reeling at the moment. I think a lot of support in the football community has been there for them. And also, more importantly, for Jota and Silva's family. Andre Silva was only 25 himself. It shocked the football world. I don't think anyone expects someone who's still playing, still in their prime, to suddenly pass away. And unsurprisingly, Jota's funeral in Liverpool was in Liverpool, and it was attended by countless current and ex-teammates from Liverpool, from Portugal. I know his former teammate at Wolves, Ruben Neves, and his former Portugal teammate, Angel Cancelo, in the FIFA Club World Cup game were visibly upset when they did a minute of silence. This is just it's horrific for the family. It's horrific for the clubs that they play for. It's horrific for the fans of those clubs. And yeah, just I hope that everyone is staying safe and in a safe place to recover, and it will be something I think Liverpool specifically will be thinking of every time they kick a game off next season. I feel like there's going to be a very big group effort from Liverpool, even more than usual, because they'll want to win everything for Diogo, sorry, and yeah, it's very sad.
Appreciate life, man.
Yeah,
honestly,
appreciate everything.
If it teaches you anything out, like appreciate life, and they may never see this, but on behalf of the CouchSide network, sending our condolences to their family, man. That's tough.
Their family, their friends, their employers, and their fans. It's just a very sad incident. It doesn't happen too often to see professional athletes pass away while they're playing, or even to see them pass away prematurely. So we hope everyone is doing as well as they can. It is obviously a very difficult time, and like Dylan said, everyone here at CouchSide just wishes the best for everyone. And like I mentioned, Al Hilal, who employ a lot of Portuguese players who knew Diego, were one of the teams to feature in the FIFA Club World Cup over the weekend, which we will briefly cover now. Some of the round of 16 games hadn't been completed by the last podcast. Some big results for the non-European teams: Fluminense beating Inter Milan 2-0, and Al Hilal beating Man City 4-3. Real Madrid beat Juventus 1-0, and Dortmund took out Mexican side Monterrey 2-1. The quarterfinals were played on the weekend and saw Fluminense knock out Al Hilal 2-1, meaning there is Brazilian representation in the semi-finals of this tournament, which
including Thiago Silva.
Yes, the Brazilian teams have absolutely killed it at this tournament. They've definitely surprised a lot of people, and so it's great that one of those teams is in the semi-finals. Unfortunately, Palmeiras couldn't join them. They went down to Chelsea 2-1. PSG defeated Bayern 2-0, and more unfortunately for Bayern, Jamal Musiala broke his left fibula and damaged several ligaments, so he's out for 4 to 5 months, supposedly. Everyone on the field, when they saw the injury, were just absolutely horrified. I think Anthony Davies,
Are you talking about
Alphonso Davies?
Yeah, there we go.
Jesus Christ, Simon. Alphonso Davies wasn't at the game, was watching it on stream, and he had a very visual reaction to it. So get well to Musiala as well.
Big facts.
Breaking your fibula is not fun. Being out for 5 months isn't fun. Real Madrid beat Dortmund 3-2 in one of the other in the last quarterfinal. So today at 7 a.m, as this podcast has been as this podcast is uploaded, Fluminense Chelsea will be about halfway through, and then on Thursday morning at 7 a.m, PSG will take on Real Madrid. The final is on Monday morning at 7 a.m. And in terms of transfers and rumours, there are more transfers, there are more rumours.
Oh, there's always transfers and rumours,
There always is. Chelsea very quickly getting a deal done for João Pedro of Brighton. The forward signed for £55 million. John Duran, an absolute crazy career at 21 years old, comes through the Colombian League, goes to Chicago Fire as an 18-year-old, gets brought by Aston Villa, and immediately turns into a capable Premier League striker. In January, gets sold to Saudi Arabia to play with Cristiano Ronaldo, and 6 months later has joined Turkish giants Fenerbahce on loan.
Wow.
So, an absolute crazy career.
Wow.
Turkish teams have, I think, taken out billions of dollars of loans to fund their spending, the three big Turkish teams, that is, because that's not the last we're going to hear of a Turkish team in these transfers and rumours. Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad to Arsenal was finally confirmed after being confirmed officially several times over the past few months for €65 million.
Joining former teammate who got bought by Arsenal last year, Mikel Moreno.
That is true. And speaking of Arsenal, Kepa Arrizabalaga joins them from Chelsea as a backup for £5 million.
That's one of my former Athletic Bilbao brothers.
Yes, one of their former brothers, the man who famously refused to be subbed off in the cup game for Chelsea once a few years ago. That was quite funny. And then Monaco, double deal. Ansu Fati on loan from Barcelona with an €11 million buy option, and Paul Pogba as a free agent. So some promising players there.
Ansu
well,
Fati going to get some play time there at
hopefully can
Monaco
stay
as well. So
hopefully can stay fit, and
Yeah,
if he
man.
does and plays well, that 11 million euro option will be a bargain. And then Jonathan David finally leaves Lille after years of rumours, leaving to join Juventus on a free. The rumours, and these are basically all Arsenal ones, which is crazy. Christian Norgard of Brentford, supposedly that's confirmed. Christian Mosquera, a young Colombian centre-back from Valencia. Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace, huge move if they get him. And apparently they are the team who Victor Gyökeres of Sporting Club de Portugal has decided he wants to go to, despite interest from United, from Chelsea, from Liverpool, from everyone. Gyökeres wants Arsenal.
he's a striker, eh?
He is a striker.
Yeah,
and if
they needed one.
they need
Facts.
one, a very good one. They're just working out the fee. And then Noni Madueke of Chelsea is also is keen to go to Arsenal. They're trying to work out the deal with him. And unrelated to that, Chelsea, in the inverse, are keen on Arsenal youngster Ethan Nwaneri if his contract renewal talks at Arsenal break down. If you're Arsenal, you're keeping Nwaneri no matter what. He's a very, very, very good prospect.
Yeah.
Still very young. I wouldn't let him go to Chelsea at all. And then Mohamed Kudus of West Ham is supposedly on his way to Spurs.
Join up Thomas Frank over there.
Thomas Frank,
New manager
yes.
there.
And then today, Fabrizio Romano said that Anthony Elanga is joining Newcastle from Nottingham Forest for £55 million.
That's huge because, I mean, we all know Nottingham Forest,
Yes.
of course, a rival of my team, Leicester City, who, of course, back in the Championship, but had played fantastic this year.
Yep.
Chris Wood, of course, scoring 20 goals, becoming the first Kiwi in Premier League history to
do
ever
that.
do that.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy, but a big part of that was the service that he got from Anthony Elanga, who was fantastic for Nottingham Forest.
Him going to Newcastle, if they still have Alexander Isak and he's giving Isak chances, that's going to be
That's tough.
crazy. And then Victor Osimhen, speaking of Turkish teams, is supposedly agreed permanent personal terms at Galatasaray. He was on loan there this season. Napoli want close to his 75 million release clause, which Galatasaray only offered 60, I believe. Al Hilal have offered to pay that of Saudi Arabia, but Osimhen doesn't want to go there. And then Theo Hernandez is supposedly confirmed off to Al Hilal from AC Milan. Very talented left back, still quite young.
Yeah.
For 25 million euros. He will be getting the bag there, unsurprisingly.
Facts.
And with those Turkish teams, if they can get Osimhen permanently, one of them's already got Duran. Leroy Sané is already joined one of those teams. Yeah, it's just a bit crazy how much money is going around in Turkey this window.
Yeah.
And moving on from the footy.
Speaking of money.
We have F1. We had the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. And, well, in qualifying, Max Verstappen killed it on his final lap, getting back into pole position. Piastri, Norris, second and third. Ollie Behrman goes from 8th to 18th for a 10-place grid penalty because I believe he was speeding in the pits and then crashed. Evan Tsunoda finished qualifying in 11th. Liam Lawson in 15th.
Actually, I shouldn't laugh. Forgive me for laughing at that Ollie Behrman. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
The reason I'm laughing is because I would have done significantly worse.
Oh, yeah.
If I was driving the car.
We all would have. And then the Formula One race itself was a very wet one. A lot of DNFs all around. I think all of the young drivers DNF.
Yeah, they did.
Unfortunately, Liam Lawson got taken out, I believe, at the beginning of the race. Unfortunately, out of his control. And more important than the winner itself, after 239 races.
It's the most. It's the most all time.
In Formula One, Nico Hülkenberg finally finished on the podium. I remember in the first or second season of Drive to Survive when they were making this a big deal. And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And he finished third, a massive result, not just for him, but for Kick Sauber.
Yes.
That's, Hülkenberg finally gets that podium.
I think Bortoleto, who's the other driver at Kick Sauber, actually had a great race as well. I think finished in the top 10, so they got points there as well.
I think they had a very good race. Lando Norris got up to win it all, and Piastri got second, Verstappen down in fifth. Lance Stroll in 7th as well, and also
Lance Stroll, I can't lie, he gets so much hate.
Oh yeah, he gets a lot of hate. Some of it justified, some of it not. And then Isaac Hadjar, alongside his teammate Liam Lawson, was also did not finish.
But Nico Hülkenberg, man, shout
out to the
man.
Hulkster.
And funnily enough, so I always, I was a Drive to Survive guy early on. He was teammates with Kevin Magnussen at Haas for ages. And funnily enough, in the back of Kick Sauber's team, as Nico Hülkenberg is finishing third, funnily enough, former teammate Kevin Magnussen is watching him finish third. So he chose the right day.
He chose
to
the
come
right
to
day.
a Grand Prix.
He
So
definitely chose the right day.
that is awesome and absolutely well deserved. And I'm pretty sure it is a record for the most races in F1
Before getting a podium.
before your first podium.
Yeah.
And can I just say, because I think people get it's F1 is funny because yes, you want to of course win races and get on the podium, but man, it is extremely hard
Yep.
to even just get on a team that's scoring points.
or
let
just
alone,
to get into F1.
exactly
Because you need money.
Exactly, let alone to to go and finish in a podium. I think this just proves it. So like us sports fans, especially F1 fans, man, let's try and understand the game a little bit more, because you can have a great driver and because of the car he's finishing 8th, 9th when you should be finishing 1st, 2nd in a better car. That's just how the sport works. It's just sport. Honestly, it's just life.
It's just life.
But shout out to Nico Hulkenberg. Good on you to that 3rd place, man. That is awesome.
Good on him.
And with that being said, shall we end it off there, mate?
I think we shall.
I think we shall.
Thank you, everyone, for putting up with us for yet another slightly later edition of the CouchSide Sports Report. Yep. Dylan and I have been your hosts as usual, and next week we obviously will be back here on our usual release date talking about the best in sport, the most recent in sport. We will be talking about what happened in the second test with the All Blacks. We'll be talking about if the Warriors broke this a losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about if anything happens in the NBA. We'll be talking about the NBL eliminators and semi-finals and how the Tauranga do, and we'll just be talking about anything else.
Come and join us, man. We're here talking sport, sitting on the couch. Sit down, relax, and enjoy. And with that being said, go and follow us on all the socials, Insta and TikTok at couchside.network. Go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Just search up CouchSide Network.
Please.
Please. Go and watch and listen to this on Spotify as well.
Listen to it twice.
Big facts. Listen to it twice.
No point.
Oh, man.
Or play both of them at the same time.
Oh, I reckon somebody could sync it up like that, you know.
Oh, you could. I don't know if that's illegal. If that was illegal of us to say that, no, we didn't say it.
Yeah, supposedly go.
Supposedly. Supposedly listen to both at the same time.
Oh, man. With that being said, Simon, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And as we always do, signing off, CouchSide out.
CouchSide out.